Hey everyone, welcome to Ajay Discusses Movies, a show in which I discuss movies, both old and new. Today we're discussing a new film that just dropped in theaters this past week, and that movie is titled The Odyssey by Christopher Nolan. Of course, I was going to discuss this movie. What else would I be discussing besides this movie for this week? But this is Christopher Nolan's 13th directed film. It has been getting a lot of coverage, and individuals are going to the theater in droves in regards to this movie, and it's really generated a buzz in which I've never seen in quite some time. Now, granted, Obsession did get people going to the theater, especially younger Gen Z folk, similar to Backrooms, and I'm sure there are other films that are not off the top of my head that have driven people to the theater, but not to this extent. And I think it really goes to show you that Christopher Nolan is holding up the Hollywood system, the Hollywood film industry, with his own bare hands. But I'm already gushing about the film, so I think you can tell how I feel about this film. But it is The Odyssey. It's based off of the Homer epic, The Odyssey, that was written back in 6th or 7th BCE. What is this film about? The film stars Matt Damon as Odysseus as he travels back from Troy to Ithaca to return back to his wife, Penelope, played by Anne Hathaway. It is a 10-year ordeal in which he's often side-railed and discarded, essentially, from being able to see his own wife, but the process takes nearly 10 years. In the meantime, Penelope is trying to avoid potential suitors who are trying to take Odysseus' place and rule Ithaca. One of them being Antinous, played by Robert Pattinson. So, how do I feel about this movie? I mean, overall thoughts, general thoughts on this movie, I loved it. It is an amazing film. Probably my favorite film of the year. As of this point in time, things may change, probably not, but as of this point in time, it is my favorite film of the year. It's great. And as I said before, Christopher Nolan is holding up Hollywood with his own bare hands at this point. And it's just insane, the catalog, his filmography. Are there duds in there? I wouldn't say duds. There are movies of his own filmography that I do take a second glance at and think, okay, maybe it wasn't as great as I remember it to be. Dark Knight Rises is one of them. Tenet might be another one. I don't know.
You want to crash a plane?
But not from the air. That was so dramatic. I would have run a jet off the taxiway, breached the rear wall, and start a fire.
Well, how big a plane?
That part is a little dramatic.
But generally speaking, his filmography is rather solid. And every time when he goes and makes a movie, you just know it will be authentically his own vision. And I think even though there has been some criticism in regards to how faithful an adaptation this movie is, he's able to make it entirely his own while also making it as entertaining as possible. This is a 3-hour movie that doesn't feel like a 3-hour movie. And I think that is a testament to Christopher Nolan's directing, and more importantly, it is a summation of all the years that he's put in to creating a film of this nature. So I'm already endlessly gushing about the film, so if that doesn't incentivize you to go to the theater and watch this movie, I don't know what will. But let's start off with some of the positives first before we get into potential negatives, which I don't really have that many, and also some spoilers that I want to at least discuss halfway through the video. So let's get into the positives first. So obviously we mentioned the directing. This is all Christopher Nolan. Again, he's the main engine behind this entire film, and you just feel his presence in this film. And there are times in which you hear that dialogue, you hear that Christopher Nolan edge with his soundtrack that was given to him by Ludwig Göransson, who does a good job within this film. You hear all of that, and you think to yourself, yes, this is a Christopher Nolan film. The humor, the subtlety of it, the rapid, talky, walk and talk nature of the moments within the film, but also in terms of the longer drawn out action set pieces. It all feels him. And people may not enjoy particularly in terms of his humor or his style, but if you've watched enough of his films, you not only expect it, but now you embrace it. And I think that in and of itself really shows you just how great of a director he is that he's able to make a story, an epic that is as old as the Odyssey, and make it inherently his. And I think that is a good thing. Now, when you watch this film, I watched this in the IMAX format. Now, it wasn't the true IMAX format because for some reason, the CEO of IMAX has very little interest in getting as many screens as possible to people that are actively seeking it out.
Problem is they haven't made new IMAX film projectors in about 50 years. So we retrofit them, we rebuild them, and part of our strategy is to see how far we could take it. But certainly demand driven, I like to see more.
I don't know why, but that's just the reality. I did watch it in the IMAX format, but not the true one. And an audience of nearly 400 people, I would say. And this film is made for that format. More so for the real IMAX format than my format, the one that I watched. But you can tell because when you see the cinematography done by Heet van Hoyten, and when you see the fact that they used IMAX 70mm cameras to film this movie, it goes to show you that there's a lot of care and interest in trying to make the story as expansive as possible. And the use of the IMAX 70mm cameras was just amazing. There are times in which I'm watching the movie, and just based off the way the movie it looks, to me, I looked at it with the utmost amazement and wonder when you're seeing the particular scenes that they shoot the movie in. When you see in which the islands that they get to, that Odysseus has to take and often has a detour at because of the high tides and Poseidon Sea and whatnot. All of it is just shot amazingly well. And again, it's a testament to Heet van Hoyten, who did DP work for not just this film, but for the previous 5 Nolan films as well. I think he started off with Interstellar. But I think that this is the best shot film of his so far, and I think that's a good thing. And again, that's not even getting into the locations that were used in this film. I mean, they were able to shoot on location in Morocco, Greece, Italy, Iceland, Scotland, even parts in LA. And the fact that they were able to use mostly practical effects through this film, I think that that is a testament to the innovativeness, the ingenuity of Nolan and his team. And I just think that the way that in which these locations are shot are just impressive. They're just absolutely impressive. So we mentioned the DP work. We mentioned the way that the locations are shot. I mean, I don't even know how they were able to assemble people to go out for locations to potentially shoot. Like, how is that process even, how does that process even begin? Like, that is just so well thought out. And the fact that they were able to shoot on location, again, amazing. And again, we're not even getting into the actual performance of this film. This is how great the film is that you're able to talk about this film on a technical end and it doesn't bore people. So let's get into the performances. Obviously, everyone does well in this film. But it goes without saying, the notable standout in this film is Matt Damon. He will definitely be, if not in the lead contention for the Academy Award for Best Actor, definitely in that discussion because he deserves it. I mean, this entire film hinges on his performance and the ways in which he's able to have those confrontations with, Calypso, to Penelope, to the various, I don't want to call them, big boss villains because that would be video game language, but with Cyclops and things of that sort. Again, it shows you that Matt Damon truly cared about what he was doing and the attention to detail that he had and the acting process and the ways in which you would hear all these sort of stories and anecdotes about people that were on set for filming and how he nearly had to blow out his own voice because he had to get in character. All of that really goes to show you the amount of care and attention to detail that he had with his performance. So we mentioned Matt Damon, but also other standouts. Himesh Patel, I think people really haven't been discussing Himesh Patel. He did play as Eurylochus, and he was playing second in command to Matt Damon when they were on their voyage to Troy and to coming back. But I don't think there's been that much discussion in regards to his performance. He hasn't really been on any of the press junkets. If you see any videos that are promoting Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, he hasn't really been in any of those videos. But he did incredible with what he was given. And just the amount of care and empathy that he has, and the love that he has for Odysseus. And even though there are times in which he may actively question his role or Odysseus's faith with his own infantrymen and with his own battalion, with his own army, the fact that he's still able to be there for Odysseus. I thought Eurylochus was just such a deeply complex character, and he was able to play that to the best of his extent. So Himesh Patel definitely did amazing. Other standouts include John Leguizamo. I mean, John Leguizamo is just an amazing actor, and him as Eumaeus, hopefully I'm saying the character's name right. I mean, so heartfelt, so beautiful, such a beautiful performance by John Leguizamo, as well as Rob Pattinson.
Running away and joining the circus? No, the first time I went to a circus, somebody died. One of the clowns died.
All right, I'm not letting that go. How did the clown die?
His little car exploded. The joke car exploded on him.
You're being serious about this, yeah? So did that kind of ruin the circus for you?
It was. Like, my parents had to, everybody ran out. It was terrifying.
As Intinuous, I thought Rob Pattinson played this sniveling, conniving, trust fund. Obviously, they didn't have trust funds back in the day, but trust fund-like individual amazingly well. And when you hear him say that his main inspiration for this film was James Woods in Casino, and Martin Scorsese's Casino, that does make sense. You can see the comparison. You can see the similarities between both of those characters. And Hathaway and Penelope did good in the film as well. Definitely she will be nominated for Best Lead Actress. Tom Holland, I will say this. I know there's been a lot of criticism for Tom Holland. I thought he did fine in the movie. I don't think he did as great as, say, Matt Damon or the other actors that we've mentioned just now. But I do think that this is a Harry Styles Dunkirk moment for Tom Holland. Because if you remember, Harry Styles was in Dunkirk, and there was a lot of discussion as to whether or not he was a good actor or if it was a product of the Christopher Nolan script. And I think with the subsequent films that Tom Holland will star in after this, I think that will be a litmus test as to whether or not he's a good actor and whether or not he can hang with the thespians that we just talked about just now. So, again, I think Tom Holland did fine in the movie. There are times in which he's particularly getting outshined, but at the same time, it didn't take me out of the film.
Close-ups, and I was going to go back for a medium close-up.
The performances were stellar for the most part. And again, I just think that this film, again, is a testament to Christopher Nolan. A lot of individuals question whether or not he could follow up Oppenheimer with something that was even more crazy and in your face and bombastic and got not just critical reviews underway, but also commercial success as well. And I think this was a nice follow-up to Oppenheimer. Now, I don't know what Nolan's going to go for after this. I do not know, but I will be seated. I will be seated for what will happen. So let's get into spoilers. Obviously, the takeaway from this review so far is it's an amazing film. Definitely go watch it. I'm going to watch it a second time as soon as possible because it's just that great. And again, it is a film that deserves to be seen on the big screen. And when you see the way in which it's being shot and the way in which everyone really brought their A game to this film, again, it really goes to show you just the sense of professionalism that comes with a Christopher Nolan movie, but at the same time, the amount of care and love that they have for the art form. And I mean, it shows through with each and every shot. It really shows through with each and every shot. So here are some spoilers. I mean, we'll get more into the movie in terms of the spoilers, but again, enter into this time frame or into this time, and you'll avoid being spoiled. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie, and Nolan movies in particular, is that there is a tinge of humor with Nolan's films. And I feel as if the smarminess, for lack of a better word, the smarminess, the air of condescension that goes with the humor, I feel like oftentimes that does go relatively unnoticed by critics and by individuals that do watch his films. But I think there is a subtlety in Nolan's humor that I do admire. When Odyssey, or when Odysseus reveals himself after shooting his bow at the end, when he's trying to win over Penelope and trying to vanquish the other suitors by getting a bow through 12 parts of this hole to hit it straight into the bullseye. When he does that, there is a person within that confined area that says, "Oh my God, that's Odysseus." And before he can even finish saying the word Odysseus, he gets shot in the neck by Odysseus. And that entire moment was hilarious. I remember watching that, and as soon as that bow gets shot in his neck, everyone literally recoiled back. They literally went back in their chairs, similarly to how I experienced that. But afterwards, after seeing that happen in real time, I was laughing. I was like, wow, this is hilarious. And when that does happen, you are literally on the edge of your seat. There are moments where you're on the edge of your seat, anticipating for what's to come. I would even say that entire scene of the Trojan War, where that wooden horse is being brought to the steps of Troy, and at the middle of the night, they get out of that horse and they just start going in for the kill. That entire scene was just amazing. And the way in which it's later then shot, in terms of Odysseus realizing the extent as to what he was doing, and just the murder, the pillaging of the people within that area. I mean, that was just, it gave me flashbacks to that scene in Oppenheimer, where Oppenheimer sees the extent of what he was able to do with the creation of the atom bomb, and when he sees all of these individuals that are a direct causation for that bomb, when he sees the true extent as to what he did with that bomb. And obviously it's mostly in his head when that happens, but that scene in particular was just so telling, and it did give me some similarity to what was happening with this film in regards to that scene of Matt Damon as Odysseus realizing the extent of what he was doing. And even that conversation between Circe and Odysseus, to me, that scene in particular of her telling him in particular about what happened to her sister and how these men of his took advantage of her. To me, I thought that there was just so much that was explained in that scene that it justified the existence of the film itself. Now, I know a lot of people say that, a lot of times there's a quite inherently a conservative nature to Nolan's films. And I do agree. I think that there is inherently a conservative nature within his films. Obviously, in his previous works, that was more evidently clear, such as The Dark Knight. But you could also see that within the Odyssey as well. But there is a sliver of nuance within Nolan's work. I want to backtrack. Not just a sliver. There is a good amount of nuance within his work. And there's a lot of complexity that is being shown, not just within the characters, but within their overall conversations and confrontations with other people. And I think that level of nuance that was evidently clear within Oppenheimer is also clear within this film as well. So the humor is great. And again, there are moments in which the humor really does shine through in the movie. And at moments, it's oddly horrifying when they're able to see the Cyclops at that island that they get stuck in. There's a moment where the Cyclops is literally eating members of Odysseus' army. And I think there is a soundtrack to it. I think Ludwig's music is being played to an extent, but there are moments in which the music is not there, and you're just seeing the brutality of the Cyclops, and you think Nolan could make a pretty good horror film. It may be a step back for him. Yes, he is an Academy Award winner now, so it may be a step back for him, but maybe a Nolan executive produced horror film, I think that would be great. I think that would do wonders, honestly. I would love to see a Christopher Nolan executive produced horror film, because that would be insane. But yes, the Cyclops scene, the Charybdis Scylla scene, hopefully I'm saying the names right, Scylla scene. I mean, the ways in which they're able to shoot Poseidon Sea and use all practical effects to do that was just amazing. It was stellar. And again, there are moments in which they're stuck at sea and they're literally stuck between a rock and a hard place, which again shows the humor of Nolan, where it is just out of nowhere, just horror scene after horror scene. There's a jump scare in the middle, and you're like, am I in a horror movie now? Like, it's in broad daylight, but I still feel this tinge of nervousness when I'm watching it in broad daylight. So again, it shows you the horror within Nolan. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was also pretty horror-inducing as well. But I would say the most horror-inducing scene, and not horror-inducing scene, but a scene in which I thought was hilarious, but other people found horrifying, was the scene in which Circe is feeding members of Odysseus' army, and they don't realize that she's a witch and that she's turning them into animals. And there's a scene in which they're eating so much that it literally feels like maybe this is a backhanded compliment, I don't know, but you know that Will Smith AI meme of him eating the food?
Oh, that's hot. That's hot. Uncle Phil, come try this.
It felt like that. It felt like that. And when you see Circe stretch them out to become pigs, that scene was crazy. I remember watching that thinking, how is he going to handle this? How is he going to handle Circe? How is he going to handle the scene of them turning into pigs? But he was able to do it exceptionally well. And it was just crazy to witness. So that scene in particular was also horror-inducing as well. So again, we mentioned the Trojan War scene. I mean, I think that was amazing. We mentioned, or we kind of lightly brushed up on the fact that Odysseus was then able to string the bow and find courtship within Penelope's love and rekindle their romance once again. But that entire last half of that movie, where you see them back in Ithaca, where you see the potential suitors there, you see Telemachus as well as Odysseus there, and when that moment happens where Telemachus realizes that no, the beggar who said he was a beggar is not the beggar, but in fact is his own father, that entire part, especially the moments leading up to it and after, the rest of the film afterwards, was just amazing. It was just chef's kiss amazing. And you really see the best of the acting capabilities within the cast, but in particular, the ways in which you're able to see what's able to occur within those final moments was just incredible. And even though that particular final confrontation was dimly lit and people may say that you couldn't really see it, I think that it sort of added more nuance and a level of direction with the film when it was that dimly lit, because then you're able to truly see the strength, the pure brute force of Odysseus within that scene. Because again, he went to war for 20 years, right? This man was going to and from Troy to Ithaca, and it took him 20 years. He's been through a lot. And to see him go at the end of the tunnel and find light at the end of the tunnel by trying to find his love and rekindle his love, but also fighting off potential suitors, in that moment, even though it was dimly lit, you could tell so much from what was happening. So that was also a moment in which I enjoyed. So yes, I did watch this in the IMAX format. I thought it was great. I thought the movie was great. And I watched it with 400 other people. Just to elaborate more on my movie theater experience, I was watching it with this elderly couple. There was a guy who was literally like jumping up and down, like literally jumping up and down in excitement of the film. And when the action scenes started happening, he was jumping up and down. He would be shaking. And I thought, oh my God, he's really into the film. He loves it. He loves it. And part of it might be true. I think he did enjoy it. But then it took me a little while for me to realize, oh no, he probably has like Parkinson's or something of that sort. So I was like, oh, I massively misread that situation, but whatever. Anyways, let's get into the negatives. So in terms of the movie, I don't really have that many negatives. I really don't. And if I do, just know that they are nitpicks. They are little gripes that I had with the movie that I'm sure if I watched it a second or third time, they will probably diminish. But again, these are just negatives. So again, just nitpicks. Just bear in mind, these are nitpicks. Don't put too much stock into it. I still love the film a lot. It's still my favorite film of the year as of right now. Probably by the end of this year, it will still be my number one film. But these are just some of my nitpicks. So there are times in which Nolan, and this is sort of evidently shown within his filmography, where there are times in which you'll see flashbacks of scenes that we already saw before. There's a moment in which, and again, back to spoilers, there's a moment in which Odysseus looks at a dog of his that he had when he still lived in Ithaca with Telemachus, and he's able to acknowledge that dog. 20 years have passed, but the dog is still living. I don't know how that happens, but the dog is still living. And Telemachus sees that and says, oh my God, you know the dog and you know his name. You must be my dad. And it's a little hokey. It can be a little corny to look at it. Now that I'm talking about it, it does sound a little corny, but there's a moment in which you see a flashback to it of them 20 years ago having that same sort of feeling for that dog. And I don't feel like that flashback scene was needed. I felt like it was kind of fully shown within the first 20 or so minutes of the movie that it really didn't need to be shown. Also, in terms of flashback scenes, we see a scene in which Elliot Page's character, I forget her name, but so Odysseus gives the wooden peg to Antinous about the reneged bribe that he gave to Elliot Page and Elliot Page's family. And there's a flashback scene to when the wooden peg was given to Elliot Page's character. I just felt like that was needed as well. So again, there were just a few flashback scenes that, I mean, I understood why it was there. Again, these are just nitpicks, so don't put too much thought into it. But the flashback scenes, I mean, I didn't really think it was that needed, but I could understand why it was, because if you're making this for a commercial audience in mind, for a general film-going audience in mind, you'll certainly need those scenes to further allow individuals to have a better picture as to what they're watching. So I understand that. So other criticisms, I mean, again, these are criticisms that other people may have that I'll just simply address. People often question the non-linear storytelling with Nolan, which, again, I can understand. You know, there are times in which when Odysseus is revealing to Calypso on the island what events led to him being stuck on that island, yes, there are moments where, you know, the non-linear storytelling does pop out. But apparently, and this, I think this is true, he was able to shoot this film sequentially, which is insane to think about.
Because you shot it chronologically, what was that like for you guys?
It's very emotional, actually, that final scene.
It's not only insane that he was able to use IMAX 70mm cameras and the buzzing sound that happens with those IMAX 70mm cameras, but more so, in fact, that he was able to shoot this in sequence, which I think is a first for him. Not just him shooting entirely on IMAX 70mm cameras, but shooting it in sequence is insane. Absolutely insane. So the nonlinear storytelling at this point in time, like it's an idiosyncrasy of Christopher Nolan, and he's able to utilize it to the best of his ability. And it didn't really affect me whatsoever when I saw the nonlinear storytelling. But I can understand why other people may have an issue with it and may have a gripe with it. Now, in terms of this film, there's been a lot of focus on the culture war aspect of it, which I think kind of bogs down the discussion of the movie, because a lot of it is rather unsubstantive, And it just feels as if people are just trying to pick out their gripes for the sake of picking their gripes, and are just they just want to be a negative Nancy. They just want to be a person that just complains. That's all they want to be. And when I see the amount of individuals that complain about the inclusion of Travis Scott in this film, which I don't think people realize, but there's a lot of similarities between Travis Scott and Christopher Nolan. Like I think there's a lot of similarities. I mean, both of them use expressive, atmospheric sounds within their music. They rely on a good amount of their crew to make their art the art that it is. Oftentimes, it feels moody and dreary. The aesthetics are very similar to one another. There's a lot of similarities between Christopher Nolan and Travis Scott. I mean, they're not. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but I can see the overlap.
What are my parents' birth names?
Bruce and Chris?
No.
But there's been a lot of criticism in terms of Travis Scott and Elliot Page in the movie. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, I don't understand why people are criticizing the fact that it's not a true adaptation of the Odyssey. This is a 3,000-year-old story. There are bound to be adaptations where they take liberties to express their own artistic expression. And that's fine. I mean, there are times in which Shakespeare has been adapted to many other languages and many other adaptations. And that doesn't make those adaptations anything less than what it actually is, which is meant to entertain the folk at home. Baz Luhrmann made Romeo and Juliet using modern-day English. And even though people may have an issue with it, it was still a fun and entertaining film. There are many moments in which directors, people within this medium, use the source inspiration of Shakespeare's work, or even that of, say, the Odyssey, and make it entirely their own. And despite the fact that it's not a true, faithful adaptation of it, that doesn't make it any worse or any bad just because it's its own thing. When Robert Pattinson says the words, "You're pining for a daddy you didn't even know," it's not just hilarious, but it serves within the context of the movie. And it really elevates the tension within what you're watching. So when I hear individuals say that, I just think that it is just so nonsensical, honestly. I just think it's so farcical to think that everything needs to be a truthful adaptation, because if that's the case, then what's the point of creating art in general? And when it comes to Elliot Page in particular, I mean, when people are complaining that a trans person is in the movie, I'm like, it's make-believe, it's dress-up, it's pretend. Like, the entire focus, the entire point of movies is to suspend your disbelief and to make you be transported into a different world. And if there's a trans person in it that you find issue with, I mean, that's on you. I mean, if you think in ancient Greece there weren't ladyboys running around, then I don't know what you're smoking. You know? So I don't know. I mean, I think all these criticisms are quite dumb. And honestly, as I mentioned before, this film is quite conservative in its nature. Right? It talks about the importance, the sanctity of marriage, of fulfilling your vows, of being able to pursue militaristic action when needed, in terms of following the rule of law, in terms of following what you believe and what the gods have set forth for you. I mean, this film is quite conservative. And when I see these same people that often really enjoyed Nolan's work, prior work, now criticize him simply because of the fact that, oh, there's Elliot Page or Travis Scott, I just think that you guys are just negative Nancy's. You guys just want to complain for the sake of complaining, and that's an issue. And you got to figure that out on your own, because if you're just going to go on complaining, then you'll never find love or true happiness within this world. And I think that goes to show you the darkness within your soul when you subscribe to that belief. But anyways, final words, final thoughts on this movie. It's an amazing movie. Nolan has hit it out of the park yet again. This is going to go for an Academy Awards sweep. I think that this will definitely be nominated for a lot of awards, not just on the technical end, but also in terms of the cast end as well. And again, it really goes to show you that he's holding Hollywood with his own bare hands. He is the last remaining filmmaker that can get a general movie-going audience to the theater. Now, there may be exceptions. It may be Tarantino and Scorsese, but he is the last guy to do that. It could have been Fincher. If Fincher did not go the Netflix route, it could have been him in that same discussion as well. But in terms of getting people to the theater, he is the last remaining guy to do that. Now, is that ideal? No, I think there are tons of other filmmakers that are worthy to be seen on the big screen. Robert Eggers, Coralie Farjah. There are many others that don't have yet to come to mind. Boots Riley, I felt like was done a disservice. Olivia Wilde's The Invite, also done a disservice with the timing in which both of those films were released. But there are tons of other filmmakers that deserve to be seen on the big screen. But yes, he is the last remaining filmmaker to get people to an audience, to the theater. And I think that's a testament to the amount of years that he's put in. Yes, there are times in which I may actively criticize some of the films that Nolan has made. I wouldn't say all of them have been knock out of the park home runs. There are slight blemishes, but generally speaking, this is a solid filmography of his. And the fact that he's still able to do this on his 13th directed film, that in and of itself is an accomplishment. And I think that he is a man that we will be talking for the rest of time. Within our own lifetimes, I would say. So, yes, it's a great film. Highly suggest you watch it. Highly suggest you check it out. I mean, obviously, if you love film, you know that you got to watch this film because it really goes to show you the importance of the technical aspects of the film, but more importantly, the fact that everyone's bringing their A game, not just in terms of the cast, but also the crew with Ludwig Göransson and Hoyt van Hoyten and many other people within that ilk. So, yeah, go watch this film. I've exhausted the limits of this conversation because it's important to talk about a Nolan film when it drops because you don't know if it's going to wrap. We don't know. That's the thing with Nolan is that you just never know when he's going to make the next film. But when he does, you'll be strapped and seated, just like I'll be strapped and seated. So anyways, guys, that is it for me. That's it for the discussion for today. Please, if you enjoyed this talk, make sure you give it a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm sure this will get individuals from other channels watching this channel to either affirm or to refute the opinions that they already have about the movie. But anyways, guys, that's been it for me. The bookshop has been updated with a new book, probably with me in the bathroom because it is a pretty good book about the accounts of the 2000s rock scene. I did watch Jack White in concert this past weekend at Fenway. That was a pretty good concert. But anyways, that's been it for me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next week, probably with a guest. Most likely with a guest. I assume it'll be a guest. It will be a guest. But other than that, that has been our talk. Bye.
Penelope did have a little bit of an emotional affair as well.
You're really trying to make this work, bro. You gotta watch the movie again.
You're such bad news. You're such bad news.